I purposely chose a turquoise cover because I didn't want it to be black. I wanted it to be a positive color. And there's a fellow by the name of Ken Wilber who talks about the integral theory and spiral dynamics. And to him, turquoise represents the highest mean on which a person can approach something. So, who knew, right? There's a metaphysical element to this book, and so it communicates.
I'm always using that color. I just love it.
Well, see, there you go. You're operating on a high mean, and I think it's really great that I was able to do that, and some of that it was intentional, because I wanted to have a book that was on the shelves that was hopeful. My Artist Way leader, the first one that I had, Marcia McCoy, she said something that was really dramatic to me and it really had impact. She said, the presence of that book on the bedstand, on the nightstand of a teenager will have an impact even before it gets read.
Yes, and the composition is so nice. Did you have an artist friend do that?
Well, it was part of the, we decided to go through the CreateSpace Amazon process, and we formed a company, Go Team Enterprises, that holds the intellectual property of the book, and I think that's an important thing for artists to know, that I have a son-in-law who's a lawyer who said you need to set up a corporation, so it's a sole proprietorship, Go Team Enterprises. It owns the book, so it shifted from being, it is a company, and that company purchased the publishing services of CreateSpace and Amazon. I had a financial backer who helped finance the project, and every step along the way, he believes in the project, and so the people at Amazon CreateSpace have been wonderful. They provided all of the support. They did the cover that you see there. They sent me several renderings, and then we came together with some parts that we put together. At the end, I said, the whole thing has to have that rural element to it. Mm-hmm. The people have to know that what she's vaulting out of is a rural setting. So this was kind of the last touch on that, the barn. So you get a sense that she's coming out of the.
Well, it's a dynamic cover. You have to agree. It's all balanced, but it's asymmetrical, and it's really nice.
Well, I'm glad you like it, and I've really, it has had some mention out there, and the artists at CreateSpace were eager to please, and I have really nothing but good things to say about the whole process of the CreateSpace Amazon experience and how and so I recommend that. I know there are other ways that people can go the indie route, but I really recommend that people check that out, because they provide editorial review, and then they provide the hard edit that every book needs. Oh. It's not cheap, but if you want your book to look like it came from Random House, then you better get somebody that used to work at Random House to do the hard edit. And
mine went through 9 different edits, and every time I would go through it, I would find something different.
Yeah, and that's what happens, and you need another set of eyes,
I had a critique group. They've been through it about twice, and then I went through it, I don't know how many times, but I think it was a total of 9. We're going to ask you a little bit about the marketing process, since you are self-publishing, and talk a little bit about the metaphysical aspects that are in the book.
Okay, well, we've talked a little bit about the metaphysical aspects, but I think the way that the book has manifested itself and the popularity that it's had has been a combination of intentionality, if you will, and also of vision, of understanding how the media process works from my background in journalism and communications, and also some of my background in working with social media. I'm an old school print journalist who taught himself, self-taught social media person, and blogging and Twitter and Facebook. That's not my domain. I'm an immigrant to the digital domain, and all of us who are over 30 years old consider themselves immigrants. And so while we may feel very comfortable with the printed page and writing, when it comes to converting to digital and how to reach out, that takes some take some help. And I would recommend that if you're probably 1 degree of separation, a grandchild or a son or a daughter is going to be media savvy and can help you get a WordPress blog up and help you decide what your domain name is going to be. And the expenses are very minimal compared to the benefits that we've gotten. I'm close to 6,000 hits on the website now after being up since just October. So that's a pretty good pace. I'm able to. And I don't have to rely on the local media. I don't have to rely on other people to get the word out about my book. I can do it myself. I keep an eye out on trends, pole vaulting in the pole vaulting community, but also in the world of farming, for example, trends in farming. NPR had a great segment the other day about multi-generational family farms and what's happening as mom and dad get older and the kids don't want to milk the cows. The kids don't want to do the hard work of harvesting. What happens to the farmstead at that point? In this case, in this story, what happens when the oldest male who was all set and ready to become that guy to take over the farm is out of the picture? And it's left on the shoulders of an 18-year-old girl to decide what's going to happen to the family farm. That story related, and so there are real life Maggie Steeles out there making this decision. Am I going to come back to the farm, or am I going to go off and pursue the life of my dreams? And I'll have to let the readers find out how that gets resolved. But it's part of the headlines of everyday news, and so keep an eye out. Are there trends in your book that can be dovetailed with an NPR headline? That you can use a hyperlink to go to an NPR story, that you can borrow quotes from and add to your story and make your story relevant. And I've done that on several occasions. As grief has come up, as exercise among teens, the importance of exercise among teens to help them overcome depression, which is, at the bottom line, a clinical psychologist would say, Maggie overcame her depression through vigorous exercise and a quest that was bigger than herself. And so that's why the counselors like the book, because it shows that you can emerge from depression and grief. And so that's part of the social media. The other part is just kind of creating a buzz. We, giveaways. There are lots of, and Create Space and other places will have a lot of ideas on how to market your book.
Well, it's a big question how you do reach the readers, and we keep trying.
Well, and one of the great things about this book is pole vaulting, as I mentioned, is among girls is probably the most popular and fastest growing sport among girls. So there are pole vaulting clubs all over the country, and former Olympians are running these clubs, and they have websites, they have Facebook pages, and so it kind of goes viral. And Maggie has kind of gone viral that way, and I've gotten some great endorsements. And so she's taken on a life of her own. She's already over the moon, and I'm just kind of going along for the ride.
Well, tell me about the state track meet.
Well, the state track meet, if you've never been to the state track meet, there's really nothing like it. It is the largest track meet in the country. It attracts 3,000 athletes who have to qualify at regional meets, 16 regional meets around the state, and then the top 4 in each event qualify for the state meet. It is a big deal. And like I said, 3,000 athletes. There can be as many as 20,000 spectators in the stands at Cessna Stadium. And the Kansas State High School Activities Association, they love Maggie so much. It took 100 years for somebody to figure out that this is a pretty good story. Somebody ought to write a book about it. So I was fortunate enough to be that person that wrote the book. And they've just embraced Maggie. As a matter of fact, Maggie is going to be on the cover of the Kansas State High School Activities Association Journal in May. And that's great. There's going to be an article in there about Maggie. And there's a chance, and a good chance, that there will be an advertisement, a rare advertisement for Maggie Vaults Over the Moon in the state meet program that will let people know that they can rush right down to Watermark and buy their copy of the book. So that's pretty exciting, and again, it's a successful. It's an idea of how one thing can lead to another. I think what I would say to authors is, just as you follow your intuition with your characters, as you follow your intuition with your storylines, follow your intuition with your marketing and your publishing. Don't limit yourself. Don't say, oh, well, they'd never be interested. Or, tell everybody and anybody. And send out bold emails. And watch how the universe responds.
Well, one last thing I want to touch on is you have an audiobook in the process, in the works?
Yes, we're right now auditioning talent for the audiobook version, and we've had some librarians around the state who've read the book who are convinced that Maggie Vaults Over the Moon is going to be a movie someday. And I'm going to hold on to that. I'm going to hold on to that vision that's going to happen for Maggie. And but yes, there's an audiobook in the works, and we have some very talented actresses right now reviewing the script. So we've got our fingers crossed for that.
Great. That sounds wonderful.